I found out my father had been lying to me the same week I realized my wife was sleeping with someone else. That sentence still doesn't feel real when I read it back. Up until a few months ago, my life was stable. Not perfect, but predictable in a way that felt safe. I had a decent job, a small house, and a wife I thought I understood. My parents were the kind of people you don't question, quiet, reserved, always fine. We didn't talk about feelings much, but I never thought that meant anything was wrong. I used to joke that nothing dramatic ever happened in my life. Now I'd give anything to go back to that version of boredom. If I'm being honest, there were cracks. Tiny ones. The kind you step over because dealing with them feels unnecessary. My wife started working late more often. My dad became distant in a way that felt different. I ignored both. I wish I hadn't. My relationship with my father was always controlled. He wasn't cold, exactly. He provided. He showed up. But he never really opened up. Conversations stayed on safe topics: work, weather, practical things. My mom was warmer, but even she avoided anything that felt too personal. Growing up, I didn't question it. That was just our family dynamic. When I met my wife, things felt different. She was expressive, emotional, alive in a way I wasn't used to. It felt like stepping into color after a lifetime of grayscale. She told me everything, or at least I thought she did. We got married after 3 years. Looking back, I think I mistook intensity for honesty. There were moments early on where she'd get secretive with her phone. Quick to flip it over, dismissive if I asked. She'd laugh it off. "Don't be paranoid," she'd say. And I wasn't. Not really. I trusted her. I trusted everyone. That was my first mistake. The first crack that mattered came from my father, not my wife. He had a minor health scare, nothing life-threatening, but enough to land him in the hospital overnight. I went to visit him alone while my mom handled paperwork. He looked smaller somehow. Vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. We made awkward conversation until he suddenly said, "There are things you don't know about this family." I thought it was medication talking. I laughed it off. "What, like secret treasure?" He didn't smile. "No," he said quietly. "Not like that." Before I could ask anything else, a nurse came in. Then my mom returned. The moment disappeared like it never happened. Later, I asked him what he meant. He brushed it off. Just old man rambling. But something in his eyes that day stuck with me. A kind of guilt. I didn't push it. Another mistake. Around the same time, my wife started changing. Not drastically. Subtly. Enough to make you question yourself instead of them. She'd started going to the gym more, buying new clothes, caring about things she hadn't before. None of that is suspicious on its own. People evolve. But she also became distant. Less present. Less interested in the small routines we used to share. Dinner conversations shortened. Eye contact faded. I asked her once if everything was okay. She sighed like I was exhausting. "I'm just tired. Not everything is a problem." That shut me up. But then came the late nights. Work deadlines. Team dinners. Traffic. Her phone was never out of reach. I noticed a name pop up once, just a first name I didn't recognize. When I asked, she said it was a coworker. I let it go. Because what else do you do when you want to believe someone? You ignore the discomfort. You swallow it. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Almost stupid in how ordinary it was. She left her laptop open on the kitchen table one morning while rushing out. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. A message popped up. Just a preview. "I missed last night already." My stomach dropped in a way I can't describe. For a few seconds I just stood there staring at it, waiting for my brain to catch up. Hoping there was some explanation that didn't involve what I was thinking. There wasn't. I clicked. I read everything. Messages going back months. Intimate. Casual. Familiar in a way that told me this wasn't new. Photos. Plans. Jokes that mirrored the ones she used to share with me. I felt like I was reading a stranger's life. Except it was mine. Or what I thought was mine. I didn't confront her immediately. I just sat there, trying to breathe. That same day, my mom called me. Her voice was shaky. "Can you come over? Your father, he wants to talk." I almost didn't go. I was still in shock from what I'd seen that morning. My world already felt like it was collapsing. But something in her tone made it impossible to say no. When I got there, my father was sitting at the kitchen table. He looked older than I remembered. Tired. My mom wouldn't meet my eyes. "We should have told you years ago," he said. That's never a good way to start a conversation. I remember thinking, not today. I can't handle more today. But life doesn't care what you can handle. "What are you talking about?" I asked. He took a deep breath. "The man you think is your grandfather isn't your grandfather." I blinked. "What?" And then everything started unraveling. My father told me that his real father wasn't the man who raised him. It was someone else. Someone my grandmother had an affair with decades ago. A secret that had been buried, denied, and protected for years. "But that's your story," I said, confused. "What does that have to do with me?" He hesitated. That pause. I'll never forget it. "Because," he said slowly, "there's a chance I'm not your biological father either." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was so absurd my brain rejected it. "That's not possible." My mom started crying. That's when I knew. They didn't know for sure. There had been doubts. A time before I was born. A relationship my mother never fully explained. "We chose to raise you as ours," my father said. Chose. That word hit harder than anything else. I felt like I was floating outside my own body. "So, what are you saying?" I asked. "That I might not even be your son?" My mom tried to grab my hand. "I carried you. I love you. That's what matters." But it didn't feel like enough. Not in that moment. Not when everything I thought I knew about my identity was suddenly optional. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Because it didn't matter," my father said. "It matters to me." He looked away. "We didn't want to complicate your life." I almost laughed again. Too late. I left without saying goodbye. I got in my car and just sat there. Thinking about the messages on my wife's laptop. Thinking about the man who might not be my father. And realizing that nothing in my life felt real anymore. When I got home, she was already there. Acting normal. "Hey," she said casually. "How was your day?" I stared at her. Really looked at her. This person I had built my life around. And suddenly, I didn't recognize her at all. "Who is he?" I asked. She froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. "I don't know what you're talking about." I almost admired how quickly she defaulted to denial. "I saw the messages." Silence. Then defensiveness. "You went through my stuff?" There it was. The shift. From guilt to blame. "Who is he?" I repeated. She exhaled sharply. "It's not what you think." I laughed this time. A harsh, broken sound. "I think you're sleeping with someone else. So unless it's worse than that." She didn't interrupt. She didn't deny it again. And that silence confirmed everything. Her name for him sounded casual. Too casual. "His name is Daniel. He's from work." Like she was introducing a colleague. "How long?" I asked. She hesitated. "A few months." I shook my head. "Try again." "Almost a year." "A year." While we were eating dinners together. Watching TV. Planning holidays. "You said you loved me," I said quietly. "I do." That almost broke me more than the cheating. How does that work? I asked. Explain that to me. She started crying. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. That sentence. That cliché. I used to think it was lazy writing. Turns out people actually say it. Do you love him? I asked. She didn't answer. And again, silence told me everything. The argument didn't just escalate, it unraveled into something uglier than I thought we were capable of. At first, it was just questions and half-answers. Then it turned into something sharper. Louder. Messier. She accused me of being emotionally absent. Said I had checked out long before she ever did. That I stopped noticing her, stopped listening, stopped trying. I felt alone in this marriage, she said, her voice shaking but firm. You were there physically, but that was it. I wanted to reject it outright. To call it an excuse. A convenient justification for cheating. But the truth is, a part of me hesitated. Because I had gotten comfortable. Predictable. Maybe even distant without realizing it. Still, none of that made what she did okay. You could have talked to me, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You could have told me you were unhappy instead of this. I did, she insisted. Just not in the way you needed me to. That sentence stuck with me longer than I expected. Because what does that even mean? That I failed some unspoken test? That I was supposed to read between lines that were never clearly drawn? I didn't deserve this, I said again, quieter this time. Not angry. Just tired. She stepped closer then, like she wanted to bridge the distance. I know you didn't, she said, crying harder now. I never wanted to hurt you. But she did hurt me. And the worst part was, she knew it, and still couldn't fully let go of him. That contradiction made everything feel even more broken. By the end of it, we weren't even arguing anymore. We were just two people standing in the same room, both realizing that something fundamental had already slipped beyond repair. And neither of us knew how to fix it. The days after that didn't feel real. They stretched out in this strange, muted haze where everything looked the same on the outside, but internally, nothing lined up anymore. We stayed in the same house, but it didn't feel like a shared space. It felt like neutral territory. Temporary. Fragile. She moved her things into the guest room without us even discussing it. It just happened. At night, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The messages. Her voice. My father's confession. It all looped together in this constant, exhausting cycle. I started noticing things I had ignored before. How often she checked her phone. How quickly she'd leave the room to answer messages. How there was always this slight tension in the air, like something unfinished hanging between us. Meanwhile, my mind kept drifting back to what my father said. There's a chance I'm not your biological father. That sentence dug into me deeper with each passing day. I'd catch myself looking in the mirror longer than usual. Studying my own face like it belonged to someone else. Trying to see resemblance. Trying to find proof. But what was I even looking for? A difference in my eyes? My jaw? Something that would confirm I didn't belong? I even opened a website for DNA testing one night. Got as far as filling out the order form. Then I stopped. Closed the tab. Because I realized something that scared me more than not knowing. If I found out the truth, I couldn't undo it. And I wasn't sure I was ready to lose whatever fragile sense of identity I had left. Meanwhile, she moved through the house like a ghost. Sometimes apologetic. Sometimes distant. Sometimes oddly normal, like nothing had happened. That inconsistency messed with me more than outright hostility would have. It made me feel like I was the unstable one. Like I was overreacting. Even though I knew I wasn't. Eventually, I couldn't take the uncertainty anymore. Not about my wife. Not about my father. So I went back to my parents' house. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up. My father looked surprised to see me, but not entirely. like he had been expecting this moment. We sat at the same kitchen table where everything had first come out. That alone made my chest feel tight. "I need you to explain everything," I said. "No small talk this time. No avoidance." He nodded slowly, like he had rehearsed this. He told me about my mother's past. About a man she had been involved with before things became serious between them. It wasn't just a fling. It was complicated, emotional, unresolved. "And you never thought to question it?" I asked. "I did," he admitted. "But I chose not to push." That answer frustrated me more than anything else. "You chose not to know." "I chose to stay," he corrected. "There's a difference." I shook my head. "That's not the same thing." Maybe it was his way of protecting the family. Or maybe it was fear. Either way, it meant I grew up in a reality built on uncertainty. "Why tell me now?" I asked again, even though he had already answered it once. This time, I needed more than the surface explanation. He looked at me for a long time before speaking. "Because I see the way things are falling apart around you," he said. "And I didn't want you living in the same kind of silence I did." That hit differently. But it didn't make it easier to accept. "Do you even feel like my father?" I asked. It wasn't meant to hurt him. But it did. I saw it immediately. Still, he answered. "Yes," he said quietly. "Even if I'm not by blood. I always will be." I wanted to believe him. I just didn't know how to anymore. Back home, things with my wife reached a breaking point I didn't expect. Or maybe I did, and I was just delaying it. One evening, I asked her directly, "Are you still seeing him?" No build-up. No hesitation. She didn't answer right away. That alone was enough. But then she nodded. "I don't know how to stop," she said. And something inside me, something that had been holding on, however weakly, finally let go. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even heartbreak in that explosive, overwhelming way. It was clarity. Cold, quiet clarity. "Then don't," I said. She looked confused. "What?" "I'm not going to fight for someone who's already somewhere else," I continued. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. She started crying again, more desperately this time. "I want to fix this," she said. "I just need time." Time. That word felt meaningless now. "You've had time," I said. "You just used it to build something with someone else." She tried to argue. To explain. To promise things she wasn't even sure she could deliver. But I wasn't really listening anymore. Because for the first time, I understood something clearly. Love doesn't survive divided loyalty. And I wasn't willing to share my marriage with a third person. "I can't do this anymore," I said. That was it. No dramatic exit. No shouting. Just a quiet ending to something that had already been dying for a long time. Leaving felt less like a decision and more like accepting something that had already happened. I packed a bag. Just the essentials. Clothes. Documents. A few things that still felt like mine. She watched me from the doorway. Crying. Apologizing. Asking me not to go. But there was a disconnect now. Like her words couldn't reach me anymore. "I never meant for this to happen," she said again. I paused for a moment. Not because I was reconsidering, but because I realized I actually believed her. That didn't make it better. Sometimes people destroy things without planning to. And the damage is the same either way. "I know," I said. And then I left. It's been months since then. We're officially separated now. The paperwork is in progress, but emotionally it was over long before that. We still talk occasionally. Short messages. Practical things. No real connection. Just remnants of what used to be. My relationship with my parents is complicated. I haven't done the DNA test yet. I still think about it. Late at night, usually. wondering if knowing would bring closure or just create a new kind of emptiness. My father tries more now. Calls, messages, effort. And I don't ignore him. But something between us has shifted permanently. I don't know if it can ever fully go back. What I do know is this. I used to think identity was something solid, fixed, defined by family, relationships, history. Now it feels fragile. Like it can be rewritten without your consent. And maybe that's the hardest part of all. Not just losing people, but losing the version of yourself you thought was built on something real.